Sunday. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's topic is the biggest picture, new beginnings. And we'll start that in just a moment. And let's see, right? What we're going to start out with first, as normal, we're going to introduce the panel members. So if you want to skip all the frivolities and friendliness at the beginning, you can skip forward. Let's see what the size panel we have tonight. You could probably skip forward to about the 8-minute mark or something, somewhere in there, and we'll definitely we'll go over what the topic is for tonight, and we'll get things going. So first of all, I'll start on my left on the screen, and we'll hear from Glenn from Australia. Say hello, Glenn.
Hello. Good evening, all. Good to be here as usual, and much looking forward to this evening.
Me too. Yeah, we've got quite a topic tonight. Looking forward to diving into that. It's a little bit about Glenn tonight, and excited to see how things might go. But thanks for being here, Glenn. How's the weather where you are?
Cloudy, cool. Wish it had rained. Yep, that's it.
Okay. How cool? You said cool, not cold, so.
I'm just converting it into Fahrenheit in my head. 50.
Nice.
Nice.
I would love it if it were 50. Here. Yep. It will be soon, though. I believe it.
Yes.
Yes, thanks, Jen.
It will be 110 soon, so we'll be going opposite directions.
Right. Oh, thanks for being here, Glenn.
Pleasure.
All right. Also, we have Jen with us tonight, the sometimes ukulele playing store owner, Jen.
Sometimes
Sometimes
I look like Bundles.
Bundles.
I don't know if anybody has watched the current Shaggy Dog movie.
Oh, no.
But that's what
I've seen it.
Sometimes I look like Bundles. Anyway, that might fly over everyone's head, but my friend Whitney from high school I think it's hilarious.
That's all that matters. If one person understands what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. I'll have to have a listen. She actually thought the dog in the movie was real, like it was driving a car, and I couldn't stop laughing. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's so obvious. It's a person in a dog suit. Like, you're more gullible than I am.
I know, right?
Anyways,
I don't think when we were kids, the original version of it, when you were kids, I don't remember thinking it was really a dog. Like, seriously. You did?
They did a really good job.
Oh, I'm sure.
Obviously, it had to be, but
Yeah.
Anyway, on to the show. I didn't mean to derail things.
You didn't derail. You didn't derail anything. Welcome to the show, Jen. We're glad you're here. How was your day?
My day was great. Fourth day in the store working with you and you helping me sell antiques. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
You work really well with customers and getting to know all my local friends and regulars. It's good. It was a good day.
That's so fun. I like getting to know new people. You guys have heard me talk about that. That's kind of how I started. Older I get, I'm going back to that, the part of me that enjoys meeting new people and stuff. And so this is definitely a situation where you meet new people every day, and
people from all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that I'd enjoy it, but I really am enjoying it probably more than I could have imagined. Nice. The antique part.
Yeah.
I knew that I would enjoy being around you. I mean, that wasn't a problem. The retail / antique aspect of it, I wasn't quite sure how that would go, but it's enjoyable.
Sweet.
And so, just so everyone knows, she's not a harsh taskmaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I let you pop your gum. It's good.
Yes, I was popping my gum today. Thanks for being here, Jen.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome. Next, we have Paula. Paula's with us, and they're just finishing up dinner. So first of all, Paula, what did you make for dinner tonight? I'm jumping right to the most important part.
Tonight I made what is usually spinach artichoke dip.
Oh,
and I add chicken to it so we can eat it like as a meal.
Oh my gosh.
I know, isn't that a great idea?
Yeah.
But tonight I didn't add spinach, just to see what it would be like. And I know Matthias doesn't like spinach, but the girls were like, "Oh, they apparently like the spinach part." So, but it was good either way.
Oh, that's good.
Amazing. Yeah, I've yet to learn how to cut artichokes correctly, but I'm sure YouTube could help me, or Paula.
No, I buy the ones already cut.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I'm not like that. I don't ever eat artichokes except in spinach artichoke dip.
Yeah, it is kind of an odd vegetable, and like it goes in certain things, but you wouldn't just like pull it out and eat it, I don't think.
Right. It has to be cleaned a certain way. I guess the inner part is like thorny.
Yeah.
If you eat it, you could like stick in your throat and stuff.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't like them that much to learn that much about them.
Okay.
To do it myself.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Glad to have you here, Paula. Thanks for taking time out to be on our show.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
Hey, everybody. Hey, chat.
Before we get to Matthias, Joseph is planning on being here, but it may not work out. He has a personal, everything's fine. He just had something come up, and he usually shows up every time. So we understand when stuff like that happens, but he is going to try to make it. So he might pop in later, and so we'll come back to him if that happens. Okay, and everybody pray for Dennis. Dennis was on last week, and there was stuff going on with him, obviously, if you listened to last week's show. And he took himself off Facebook, and nobody has talked to him yet. So Joseph's tried to reach out to him, and we hope everything's fine. Maybe he's taking a break. Sometimes people take a break from social media, and that usually is not a bad thing, but we definitely are a little bit concerned since things didn't go very well for him last weekend on the show, and I reached out to him a couple times, and he was very apologetic, and I was like, no problem, and then he just disappeared. So I don't know. So definitely, those of you that prayed, please keep him in your prayers. All right. Next on the panel is Matthias, who's also, when I said finishing up dinner, that's literal. He has to finish dinner before he has his ice cream. So we're trying to give him as much time as possible so that I get
right. Well, I wasn't going to be able to eat in that time, so I'll be eating ice cream a little bit later. I'm still kind of upset that my girls didn't like the 86 spinach. This is awesome without spinach. So I think I'm still here eating it, but a little upset. I'm gonna have to go talk to my daughters.
All right. Well, we're glad you're here, Matthias, even though a little disappointed that you don't like spinach.
Yeah, no.
Did you not grow up watching Popeye? Is that?
Oh, I did. I was disheartened when my muscles didn't boom into.
Same here.
Me too.
So I was like, what false advertisement?
I know.
Eating spinach again. Until I started eating this dish.
Yeah, okay.
Television spreading lies again.
Yeah, that's it, Jen. I was going to say that. Think about that was one of the first deceptions other than Santa Claus that were put on us kids early on. And actually, it was done before we were even born because it's an old cartoon. It really is an old one. So they've been spreading the lies about spinach to children for years and years and years. I mean, I'm sure it's good for you, but it certainly doesn't pop your arm out and make you be able to, move ships around with your bare hands and, knock people back about 300 yards. Doesn't really do that. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Okay, so tonight is going to be a little bit different. As you guys know, Glenn does the write-ups, and this one is pretty personal to him. So he's going to be the one doing the reading tonight. And then when he's finished, then I will resume my role as host, and we will get into the questions, and it'll be self-explanatory as what we're going to be getting into tonight. And so I will pass it over to Glenn if he's ready, and he can begin the show. Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, I forgot the chat, and I don't want to do that. So, Jen, would you mind saying hello to the chat before we get started?
Yes, I would mind. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I'll say it, everybody. I think John already left, but I'll still say hey to John. Alex, hey Alex. Rapture Ready, hello. Lil Ingstrom, Stacy Ann in Arizona, hey. What else? I said what else? Who else? Glenn. Am I missing anybody? My scroller isn't going all the way to the bottom.
Oh.
Paula, Kay Stover. And I think that's it.
All right.
Nope. Sarah Jane's here. I see her.
Hey,
She's
Sarah
further
Jane.
up. Hello, everybody. So glad that you're here tonight hanging out with us. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show tonight. It's going to be fantastic. So thanks for being here. All right, we'll get into this topic here, and if you're ready, Glenn, please begin when you're comfortable.
Yeah, sure. I apologise to everyone for not sounding like John Goodman. He's got way more voice than I have. but in fairness, he is making me own my own stuff, so that's not unreasonable. So it's all good. Happy to take ownership of it.
Nice.
We'll see where it goes. Okay, thanks. Okay, here we go. No lyrics this week. Could not resist the follow-up to the bigger picture. I have news. The clock stopped the second prior to 0 hour. Maybe there are mixed feelings regarding this outcome. Maybe not. I wonder, is anyone here disappointed they are not dead?
Mm-hmm.
Music as usual. Links provided. As I've received more life, what a great opportunity to say a few things before the gift expires. Yes, it's so true. I've heard countless times, when I did not believe I was that, and now I do, I'm this. What am I supposed to take from those words? I'm a better person since I found God. My new attitudes to life prove I have found God. Question. It's been pointed out to me by listeners that change when coming to God is a spiritual change, quotes, rather than a physical one, there being no honest measure to gauge how such spiritual change may or may not affect or manifest in one's daily physical life. Now, that makes sense to me, and it really does make sense. But too many assumptions, too many judgments about others who are not on the chosen path is my conclusion, and yes, I feel it very much to heart.
Mm-hmm.
Comments, question. Tonight's like a mini testimony for me. Hey, I'm fair. I ask you questions. Feel free to reciprocate. Nothing off limits, whatever you want. So basically I'm saying, hey, I'm happy to take it on. No worries at all. But let's clear one thing up first. Somebody's got to call this out again. I continue to see pathetic behaviour from so-called Christians. I've asked myself the question, what am I doing on TSL at all? And to be honest with you, I've been asking this for some time. This seems to be getting more hardline in my humble opinion. I see people treating people, particularly on other shows and partly on TSL, in what I would call a disgraceful manner. Is this what Christians are about? I don't believe so, and I really don't. However, don't say the Lordship people are the ones at fault and you, the Free Grace lobby, are not doing it. You're all up to your necks in it, and I see agendas all over the place. People are hurting and being confused by all this division and righteousness. Do you see it? Do you care? Do people matter, or are they just mere pawns in the salvation game? It's always been our hope that TSL be a path to new beginnings for any person, believe it or not, who is interested in enhancing their relationship with God or simply discovering themselves. I feel we need to get back on path, and that includes with those who disagree and make comments to such end. If we don't agree, we reach out rather than automatically brand them troublemakers. By reach out, I don't mean some condescending attitude to get them saved or diffused. If not, it's to block them. I mean being open to hear what they have to say. Some are trolls, but not all. Who really knows unless we engage with integrity? Okay, we move to the next bit. Last week in chat, I mentioned my thinking that's an imperative that I have no God, no creator, no eternal life. Do I have a problem with Jesus? No. Do I have a problem with the Bible? Of course not. Is Jesus the Son of God? There is no God. A God would hold me inside a box, whereas for you, God liberates you from a box. Okay for you, but I'm not you. I require my mind to be free to wander where it goes without restriction. Anyone who wishes to comment or question any of that, please come forward. It's open as far as I see it. Just throw it out there if you want to. Okay, continuing. After who knows how long, we move to what I believe is the crux of it all, spirituality. Of all the people I've met on these shows, there's only one person I feel a spiritual connection with in my terms. What does that mean? It means something that connects for which one has no explanation in human terms. It's a form of knowing, yet without knowledge. It's intense, yet peaceful. There's no requirement for questions because there is no need for explanations. It's difficult to articulate, but those who understand will know exactly what I mean. It so happens that this person defines themselves as a lordshipper, as you put it. Do I hear the comments coming? You are just connecting with another non-believer, and it's the voice of an immature mind. If I do, there is going to be some lively discussion on TSL this evening. Oh, there sure is. Honestly, I cringe every time I hear the ongoing thought that non-believers are solely about their human existence. What qualifications does anyone have to make such a statement? It's like John McEnroe said, you cannot be serious. Jen's a good case in point. She's nothing like that. She's open door, a revelation to me. She's at least willing to consider alignment is possible between a believer and a non-believer on such matters. If Jen's up for it, we can expand it further. To sum it all up, what's the higher purpose, the reason for your existence? A very telling question, I think. Looking forward to hearing responses. I'm listening respectfully. Beautiful sunsets need cloudy skies. That's from Paolo, as per usual. Thank you, JC.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Appreciate that. So that's a pretty good write up from Glenn's perspective. So we're just going to kind of open it up a little bit, and we'll go to the first part, which is highlighted for me. He does a really good job when he does these write ups to highlight the questions and the different parts that are kind of separated from the rest of the body of the write-up, so makes it easy for me to find, which is always helpful. So the first part at the beginning, maybe there are mixed feelings regarding this outcome, maybe not. I wonder, is anyone here disappointed they are not dead? Now, this goes back to the idea that we presented that we've been presenting about there being some kind of doomsday end type scenario. The clock stopped a second prior to 0 hour. This question is based on finding out that, as we talked about last week, that you have an hour left to live, and we answered questions kind of based on that scenario. So this is saying that the clock stopped, that the world's not going to end, and everyone's okay. So maybe there's mixed feelings regarding this outcome, maybe not. I wonder, is anyone here disappointed they're not dead? Does anyone want to take that?
I will.
Okay, Jen?
So I, in a sense, would be happy that the clock has stopped.
Sure.
I have my own understanding of what heaven will be like, and there's a part of me that looks forward to it, truly.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a life on this earth and things to be seen and experienced, learned. So if the clock did stop and God is the holder of that stopwatch,
yeah,
I trust him, and I'll enjoy spending more time with my friends, my family, and those that don't know the Lord, and just loving on people.
Yeah.
Not with an agenda in mind, in my own mind, but just because I truly love people and enjoy getting to know them and experiencing what God has for me to experience on this earth. So that's my answer.
Great, Jen. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll second that idea. I like the way you said God's the one holding that God is the one holding the stopwatch on that, and I would agree with you there. So if whatever happened was preempted in some way and it wasn't the end, I would do the same thing that we've been ordered to do during occupation, which is to build homes and have lives and reach out to other people and have families and friends and all the stuff that we do now, because it would mean that wasn't the actual end. I think there's been several times in history when people thought it was the end, and it really wasn't. We've never had a scenario where we turned on our television and said, well, not yet. In fiction, we've had the big asteroids going to hit, and they present for us in a fiction sense of what would happen if an asteroid a huge asteroid would smash into Earth or some kind of catastrophic event. It's fun to watch. Those are some of my favorite movies, but we've never had that happen thus far. But it's fun to think about. I also I have my ideas about what heaven is like as well. I look forward to it. I too, Jen, feel like I have more life to live, and I have things to do, and God is the one that decides when that ends for me. I'm not going to take my own life, so that's off the table. So it's pretty much up to Him, and I trust Him. So if they said that the end was coming and then find out that it's not, and we have a reprieve of some sort, there would be a part of me that would be happy. There would be another part of me that would still long for what we believe to be eternal life, and what we believe to be what heaven and the new earth is going to be like, and everything that entails. And I look forward to that very much. But again, it's up to Him. I like the way you put that, and I would agree.
Yeah.
Anyone else? We have a limited panel tonight, guys. So
I would say I agree with you and Jen. I actually didn't understand the question until Jen started talking, and then I realized, oh, okay, so the clock to like the last day on Earth stopped. Okay.
Yes, thank you. That sounded pretty dramatic, Paul. That was good.
I would have mixed feelings, like you were talking about, Jason, because I think about that when I was getting closer to God and reading about all this end time stuff. I mean, there's no question, according to the Bible, what's going to take place at the end. Mm-hmm. And it's not pleasant. And I found myself really torn in realizing that my children are still young, and I would love them to grow up and get married and have kids of their own and have all these experiences. But then another part of me knows that there are things going on in the world that are awful. Yeah. And they're just going to get more and more awful.
That's true.
And justice is being delayed.
Yeah.
The longer the Lord tarries. Mm-hmm. But I know that He knows what He's doing. So I would feel torn, but I wouldn't stop and say, oh, now what?
Yeah.
Right. Just keep doing what I've been doing.
Yeah, because we don't live in fear, Paula, right?
Right.
The three of us who've answered so far, we don't live in fear. I think that you described it well. There are some horrible things that are happening, and it is going to get worse, biblically speaking. Now, a person that doesn't believe the Bible, doesn't believe in God, they wouldn't believe any of this. It's just foolishness. All they would have is to look at the world from their own worldview and see the atrocities in this world. And I don't know. I mean, when it comes Glenn's turn to answer, maybe he can dive into that a little bit. But it wouldn't be the same worldview. So you would look at it differently. I mean, you would have to look at it differently, because you don't have an outcome, a certain outcome at all. You would just have whatever you think that is the end for you. Yeah, we don't live in fear is the point. So if it was rescinded, if the end was rescinded and somehow it didn't happen, very much mixed feelings. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate your answer. Matthias, if you could take a minute for this one.
He's eating his ice cream.
My mute button or my password and register. You know, I mean, I want it to be a far time away from now.
Okay.
Just because I see things happening and I project it to be sooner than later. And just because I absolutely want that way more than what we have here doesn't mean that I don't understand and appreciate every minute and breath as the gift that it is. So, while I can't wait to die,
Mhm.
it's in God's timing, not mine.
Right.
And until He says it's time to go home, I'm happy being of service.
Right.
So, you know, whether He tarries long, the only thing I'm worried about is like what Paula was just talking about is how it potentially. I don't see it getting any better, and it's just going to get worse and worse till He gets here.
Yeah.
And so, if I've got to deal with that type of stuff with my children, you know, I hope not.
Yeah.
But other than that, I want to see them grow up. If somehow the world just stopped going into depravity,
Yeah.
it would be all right.
Yeah.
I don't see it getting any better. So, you know, for me, also, let's say by chance my children, or one of them, if not both, if they grew up to adulthood, would reject what I believe, and I wouldn't get to spend eternity with them.
Right.
If that were the case, I'd rather him come sooner than they become adults.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
and for those of you that don't get that, why he would say that, because there's a belief that the children are safe because they haven't come to an age of accountability of understanding what salvation is. So all children that die while still children, and there's some disagreement on what that age is. A lot of people think 18. I think Matthias has talked about it being 21. But only God knows at what point a person is responsible to understand. And that would be people with mental illness or, you know, like Down syndrome and things like that would fit in that category as well. They're incapable of understanding right and wrong, really. I mean, you can teach them, you know, don't touch the stove, or you can teach them all sorts of stuff. But salvation and personal issues with the soul and how that plays out and all that, they're safe. So, as Matthias was saying, if his children were going to grow up to the age of accountability and not accept the truth of the Bible, and then there would be a chance that they wouldn't spend eternity with him. But if they were still children when it happened, then of course they'd be safe. I hope I explained that well. It seemed a little meandering to me.
It's a little hard to explain sometimes, but I'll basically say I'm not disappointed that I'm not dead, but I know if I were dead, I would be in a better place.
Right. There you go. Okay.
And happier. I'm happy with my wife and children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, face to face with Jesus Christ. I can't be much happier than that.
Right. Well, perfect. Well, that was well put. Thanks, Matthias. All right, Glenn, it's your turn, my friend. Mixed feelings? Is anyone here disappointed they're not dead?
Certainly not me.
Yeah.
You knew that was coming.
Oh, I did. I did.
How predictable is that? I just dodged a bullet. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can fill it out a little bit more because you've talked with me about this. This is from your worldview. You've got one life. That's it. There's no eternity. There's no end. You just join whatever mythical collective energy. Well, you explain it. There's no point in me trying to explain it.
Well, once I'm dead, there's no mythical cosmic connected. That's when you're alive. When you're dead, you're just into the cosmic recycling factory. That's
right.
It, and bang.
Cosmic recycling factory. So the energy that you currently possess gets because you would go with the idea that energy can't be created or destroyed.
Matter can't be created or destroyed.
Or matter, yeah, matter can't be created or destroyed.
Yeah, but that's see, okay. Let me explain. I see it more to the fact is what you do here is reflected in the legacy that you leave. That's what is important to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm gone, if people say, well, okay, here's your mum's a great example. Now, she's gone, right? But if I get something that I think about and it's relevant to her, she will come into my mind and I'll think, now what would your mum have said about this or that, because she's an insightful lady.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of thing I refer to when maybe you leave an impression upon people, and at some point, unknown down the track, you've left something for people and they will refer to it. And I think that's very indicative of how you behave and how you live your life in the now. So, yeah. But it's not related to some kind of eternal existence or anything. I just believe death is a natural consequence of living. Simple as that.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you for the body. I mean, for the bodies that we inhabit, yeah. I mean, these bodies are not made to. We all know everyone dies. I mean, 100% of everyone that's ever been born will die unless something happens to stop that. But from your view, you're not waiting for anything like that to happen. So the inevitable outcome is indeed for the body that you possess to expire at some point. And then you believe there's no consciousness beyond that. Once the matter that you possess ends, in other words, the heart stops beating and the brain stops working, etc. The blood stops flowing through your veins. There's nothing beyond that.
Well, I'm hoping that look, I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't understand. I put my hand up, and if there's some kind of consciousness that remains, well, I'm up for it. But I don't know. I've got no idea. The only thing I can focus on is what happens today. Do the right thing. Uphold your values, your principles. Love as you wish to be loved. A lot of biblical type principles. And then the rest is out of my hands.
Right.
Simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to question Glenn on this? Because this tonight's show, as he said in the write-up, that he's open to all and any questions. So at each point along the path, as we go, once we all answer, from our perspective, you will have an opportunity to ask Glenn any questions about the ones that we just covered.
And that includes the chat if they have any questions.
That does. Thank you, Jen. Yes. So this includes the chat. Are you able to see the chat now, Jen?
Nope. I don't know what's going on. I turned my computer off and turned it on, and it's still not working.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, guys. So Jen can't see any of your comments in the chat. So what I will try to do is let her know if you have any comments for her specifically, but just be aware that she can't see your comments. So she's not ignoring you. Something's going on with her chat box over there.
Yeah.
So yes, if you have any questions for Glenn in the chat, please put them in all caps. And with each question, please, as we go, And then when we move on to the next question, please make your questions about the current topic. Okay, so I think we covered that. So anyone on the panel have any questions, or do you want to take what Glenn said, and do you have anything to add as far as his answer to this first one? And if not, we'll go ahead, Matthias.
I was just saying I don't really.
Okay.
I was going to say if Paula has something she can.
Paula? Not putting anyone on the spot, just making sure no one has questions before I move on.
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, great. All right, so then the next part is, and this is Glenn, and this is a good one, and I want to talk about this. I think this would be good. So Glenn says, I've heard countless times when I did not believe I was that. Now I do. I'm this. What am I supposed to take from those words? I'm a better person since I found God. My new attitudes to life prove I have found God, ? So we'll take it bit by bit. Now, I've heard this said on TSL quite a bit. A lot of people talk like this. They say, "Well, when I was unsaved, I did all this stuff. You know, I did this and I did that, and I lived like this, etc. And then I got saved, and now I don't do this anymore." And then a lot of times they'll explain, "Well, this is what I do now." So this is what Glenn is noticing. And if I've mischaracterized that, Glenn, you please feel free to correct me. So he's hearing this a lot from people, making a line between the way that they used to be and the way that they are now. And God is the thing that's changed. They didn't believe in God before. Now they believe in God. And so does anyone want to make a comment about that?
I do.
Okay, Jen?
Okay.
I like to start out right from the beginning, Jen. You're like all over the place. That's awesome.
Yay. Okay.
Yay.
Maybe it's awesome. I don't know. Okay. I was going to say for me, it's not I'm a better person in the sense of, oh, look at me, I'm so special because I found God. Although I do think some regard it in that way. It is kind of a point of pride. For me, it's a humbling experience. This is going to sound new age. I don't mean it to sound new age, but it's an expanse of knowing. Mm-hmm. Seeing him in everything when before I couldn't see past my own nose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's going to sound cliche, but it is like the colors seem brighter and I see the world differently. It reminds me of the song from last week. I see the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. It is humbling and it does make me feel insignificant and incredibly special all at once. Uh-huh. And it's not a special I'm going to flaunt. It's not special I'm trying to flaunt all over the place like a narcissist or something.
Right.
It's just a simple, peaceful knowing and it feels pure. Uh-huh. And I know I've used this above comment before that he's writing out above in the write-up. But I've used it as an introspective observance that I've shared with others, not to belittle them or make them feel less than or puff myself up. It's simply a sharing when words are hard to find to describe or define what I'm feeling when I've come to my own realization regarding God. So I can totally see how this could be taken weird and it's like, oh, I was a bad person before and now I'm, I don't know. I could see how people would take it, especially a non-believer would take it to be weird or off. But sure. I don't know if my explanation explained it well, but that was my thoughts on the matter.
I think you did, Jen. Okay. It's almost like from their perspective, it might sound like some club that they can't join because they don't believe.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be a part of the belief club.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I'm characterizing it. But it's I appreciate what you said. You made it very clear. You're not saying you're better than anybody else. You're not saying, you start by saying, you're not even saying you're a better person. You're saying from your own perspective, looking at your own life, that things are different for you.
Yeah.
And I don't see what the problem is with that. I don't see what the problem is for anyone out there. I mean, you have your beliefs, and you're looking at your life and saying, well, I used to do this, now I don't do this anymore, and you believe that God is the reason why these things change. So why does anyone give a flying flip about that in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, why is that such a problem?
And it is a really hard thing to describe. How can you walk someone into your past and into all the experiences you've had and all the things that you've done and thought and said and responded to, and how do you explain? It's almost like too simple.
Yeah.
It's oversimplified when it's one of the most difficult to explain things. There's another word, but I can't think of it. Very intricate, very detailed, just so many details. And it's only something that you and God can really look at, because your life is your experience, and how can anybody experience that but you? And of course, God is all knowing, so he sees all that and he experiences it with you. So yeah, it's almost like a oversimplifying comment. You don't mean it to be. It's just kind of like you don't know how to explain it. It's very hard.
It is hard to explain, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we fall over ourselves sometimes to explain it to someone that doesn't believe. And I'm sure we make mistakes all the time in the way it's phrased.
Yeah.
I have in the past, I'm sure. That's a good answer, Jen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone want to take it next?
I'll go ahead and try.
Thanks, Matthias.
If I ever come across as I'm a better person because I found God, then I'm not preaching it correctly. Because I'm just as wicked and a sinner as any unbeliever.
Interesting.
I'm just saved.
Right.
Now, just because I may not act on all the different things, maybe because God's working different things out in my life, doesn't and I try to walk in the Spirit, doesn't mean that my flesh is no different than when I got saved.
Right.
It's the exact same.
Uh-huh.
So I'm no better. But if there is a new creature that takes place. So the thing is and then my new attitude to life, prove I have found God. If your new attitude towards life, well, you know what? There is no proof that you have God other than the scripture. But if there hasn't been a new attitude towards who you are, who he is, and what he's done, then you have not found him yet.
Right.
Sorry. That's all there is to it. That doesn't mean somebody has to change, but this says attitude here. This is talking about the inner workings, and that's what God works on first, quickly.
Right.
And so, but other than that, it's kind of, I don't know how to put this. It's kind of asking somebody, don't be a witness. Because it makes, what am I supposed to take from that, from your witnessing?
Yeah.
It's like, well, how is somebody gonna hear the truth? Especially when God says that he wants us to witness. That's the Great Commission. And so our witness is how we were before we were saved.
Right.
And how we are after we're saved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no, that's our testimony. Sorry, I messed it up. Our testimony is that, and then our witness is preaching the gospel. So either way, it's asking us to give up either one or both, witness or testimony, if we don't talk about how we were previous to God in our life. Because we other people, like, all they can go to scripture, but when it comes to for ourselves, the only thing that they have from us is our confession.
Right.
And so if we are not able to talk about our testimony or our witness, one, it breaks up fellowship. How are you supposed to really trust who you're fellowshipping with if you don't know what their testimony or witness is?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And how are you supposed to really trust who you are fellowshipping with if there's a lack of those as well?
Yeah.
You know, like, that means if we're not supposed to talk about the doctrine or the new creature, how can we come together in that manner? So it's not a kumbaya thing. We want everybody to get saved, but Jesus said he came for division.
Mm-hmm.
And so that division is the difference of which Jesus people have. So talking about the witness and testimony is something that's necessary to even help people come to the truth or to keep a fellowship actually clean.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Matthias. Gosh, I could go in a completely different direction there. You said something that I'm going to talk to you more about later. But yeah, I'll just mention it briefly so I don't forget. I can go back and listen to it later. But the passage in Scripture where he's talking to the people that relied on their own works, saying things like, didn't we cast out demons? Didn't we do this? And didn't we do that? And as an excuse, because they're relying on their own works instead of on what Jesus did. And there's plenty of verses in Scripture about God destroying the deceitful, wicked in the world. But as far as I know, there's not a passage that talks about God being angry at someone who simply doesn't believe. It's almost like the frustration is more with people that are pretenders, people that are false converts, more so than just someone that just simply doesn't believe. But this is a topic for a different time. Just the way that you phrased that's what it made me think of. Thanks for your answer, Matthias. Glenn, would you like, or Paula, would you like to answer this one?
Sure.
Okay.
I feel like he's speaking about me here, because I'm very guilty of saying when I didn't believe I was this way and now I'm this way. I do that all the time.
Okay.
But I just don't know how I could say it any other way.
Right.
Because that was the only factor that was the difference. That was the only factor that changed. I lived in this house that I'm living in when I was unsaved, and then I got saved. So that's just how I would say it, and I don't mean for it to come across as condescending. Or let me read the question. Actually, yeah, what am I supposed to take from? I mean, I didn't think about it until he posed the question. What am I supposed to take from those words? Like, I get it now that you put it. It sounds really, it does sound like someone is being condescending to someone else.
Okay.
Am I a better person since I found God? I would say that I am a better person than I used to be. But I'm not a better person than anyone else. In fact, when I came to God and he showed me the truth, it was very humbling, because I had only myself prior to God, and I had built myself up in my own mind to think that I was something special. And God showed me that I was wrong but in a different way.
Mhm.
I did think I was better than other people, not because I did better things, not because I was more moral, but just because I was me.
Mm.
I mean, it was a really a kind of a narcissistic worldview I had.
Right. Okay.
And God humbled me, and he showed me that I am special, but so is everyone else. And just because everyone else is just as special to God doesn't negate my own specialness to him.
Yes.
It sort of brought me in a position where I was free from my own messed up mind.
Yeah.
Just I remember thinking about it like this, that everything had changed, and when I looked at life after I knew the truth of God, it was the same old world, but everything was different.
Yeah.
Everything made sense
Mhm.
to me. God made everything. He made every single puzzle piece, every single question I ever had in life. He brought me the answer through the scripture.
Right. And
that was incredibly liberating, but it also liberated my own mind.
Sure.
I've mentioned before that I was borderline personality disorder, and all of that dissipated the moment that I came to the truth in God. It was dampening as I was learning about God and seeking him.
Yeah.
I could feel this shift, like something was happening, like I was going in a different direction that was more than just myself.
Right.
And I was never ready to go in that direction before that.
Okay.
But when I did, there was such a dramatic change. That's the only way that I could describe, how I used to be and how I am now.
Sure.
It's all because of him. It wasn't, me modifying my behavior,
right,
or anything like that. And then the last part, he said, my new attitudes to life prove I have found God, ? Yeah, I can see how that someone could take it like that. Like I'm saying, oh, look, I'm so different. So I'm proving to you that there is a God and he's done this for me. I could totally see where he's coming from.
Okay.
How that might sound. But if he really thinks about it from like a believer's perspective, we do believe that there has been a profound change in the way that we used to be and then the way that we are now. And there's really no other way to kind of word that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was going to add to that, Paula, that when it comes to a stranger that didn't know you before, it's almost like your words you only have your words to share. But then the other flip side of that is people that knew you, that saw who you were and how you were before. It's like you don't have to say anything to those people because they've seen the shift. You know what I mean? So it's like when you meet people and they didn't know the old you,
right?
It's kind of like you have to. Not that you have to, but when you feel led to share, these are the types of words that come out, with a little more detail and explaining as to who you were before and what was going on. But it's pretty powerful when someone actually sees they knew you before and they see the change. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thanks. Anything else you want to add to that, Paula, or did you do you think you made your point?
No, I think I said everything I wanted to say, and I completely agreed with what Jen just said. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, Ivan Vlogs has, he's going to be leaving soon, so we're going to suspend Glenn's answer to this question, and Glenn wants to read and answer Ivan's questions, so before he has to leave. I am trying to keep track of the chat, and I see that going on now. So, Glenn, if you want to answer Ivan's question first, and then I will come back to this. And then Jen has another question for you from another person.
Sure. Now, do you want to read Ivan's question or do you want me to?
You can read it because I don't have it. I would have
sure.
to scroll back up. So.
Yeah, hi, Ivan. Hey, your question was, Glenn, what made you lose hope and faith in God? Question. Did you believe as a child? Okay, well, I think we should take the second part of that first. Did you believe as a child? Okay, went to Sunday school, got myself kicked out at age 11. I said, this is rubbish. I'm not going to be there. So I played up, so they booted me. So what made you lose hope and faith in God? Well, I never had it. I've always thought it was just so distant. And I've never. It's just never been relevant. That's the truth. Now, the one time where I did consider it was with your mum, JC, and you know this. It's a story. There was an opportunity potentially for me to marry your mum, and she said, "Well, if you become a Christian, I'll marry you." Well, that was a pretty heavy going thing to say.
Yeah, really.
And I mean, you can understand my reaction, but
I can, yes.
Be fair to myself. My uncle is a minister. He's a wonderful man. I went and had a chat to him, and I went through it, but I just couldn't come to it. It was like it's in another universe to me. So I just had to acknowledge the fact that it's just not for me. It's simple. I've got no axe to grind about anyone, as you know, about anyone who does believe. But the answer is I never lost hope and faith in God because I've never had it.
Okay.
Simple as.
Okay.
Yep.
Ivan, I hope that answers your question. I feel like it does, but if not, please say so in the chat and we can redirect. Okay, so let's, Glenn, go ahead and answer your own question, this bit, and you can respond to anything anyone else has said in regards to this question, and then Jen will ask her question before we move on to the next one.
Sure. What was pretty obvious, Paula, that you were the primary candidate for me to say this, and I wouldn't be saying it if I hadn't reacted to it. And I do find it condescending because, and in some respects, from my point of view, it's crazy the way you would even feel the need to keep saying this, because it's like you're saying to someone in my position, assess the strength of my belief by my new behaviour or my new works. That's just it. So obviously something from that in my head is saying, hey, you keep telling me you're better than I am and you're smarter than I am because you've got God. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just giving you an opinion of how I take it. And that's what I honestly feel. And I thought when I read the second paragraph about there being no honest measure to gauge how such spiritual change may or may not affect or manifest, I thought, how am I to draw an inference, really, between what has gone on inside you with what you're doing? You're saying it's the case, but I don't know. Am I suspicious? Well, I've got no reason to believe you or not believe you, but I don't need to hear it 50 times. That's what's annoying me. I think that sort of covers it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Paul, do you care to respond to what Glenn just said or just move forward?
Sure. I would say, ouch. I'm very sorry that came across as condescending. But it's funny because what I would have said to Christians 10 years ago is, no, I'm a better person than you and I'm smarter than you because I'm not such an idiot to believe a book of fairy tales.
Yeah.
So I would never say that now
right.
To anybody,
right.
that I'm smarter than them, I'm better than them. But I will keep that in mind, and I will try to never mention how I used to be again, if that's at all possible.
No, Paul, that's not the point. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm just saying that is your free call. Hey, what you say, how you say it. I'm just explaining to you how I feel. I'm not attempting in any shape or form to stifle anything you would say, because that's why TSL's here, for people to say what they think. We're just doing feedback.
Yeah, no, I get you. And if you had said something that bothered me and I told you and you said, well, screw you, I'm just going to say whatever the hell I want to say. I'm like, all right, well, you definitely have the option to do that. But I'm just saying that if it bothers you and you've told me about it and I appreciate it, that I will just bear that in mind. That's all.
That's got, and I think the other thing is too, why I react so much is that I'm not in any shape or form being anti-God. And I think that's why I react more. If I was being an arsehole and coming from a place, well, you're an idiot or all this kind of stuff, I could understand, but I'm not. I'm seeing it. You and me are total equals, regardless of what we believe. Neither of us is smarter than the other. Neither of us is necessarily right or wrong. We just have a difference of opinion. It's just a piece of cake.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Anything else about that, Paula?
No, I guess not.
Okay. Thanks, Paula. Good conversation, I think. These are good questions. Jen, are you ready to read the question from someone in the chat for Glenn?
Yeah, my chat went out, and then I was like, ah, crap.
Oh, you said it, and I'll try to.
But you know what? It came back in.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this thing. Okay, it's from Stacy Ann in Arizona. It says, Glenn, just curious if you've ever wondered if God is real, and if so, did you ask him to reveal himself to you?
Oh yeah, we've been over this. Go ahead, Glenn. Answer that one, please.
This sounds like deja vu.
It is deja vu, and it's going to always come back around to that.
Yeah, Stacey Ann, hi. Cripps and Jen have posed this on a number of occasions, and I've tried to be honest with them. And I would say, in answer to the just curious, of course, I think I've considered it, wondered if there is the possibility of such a thing, and subsequently said no. And you ask him to reveal himself. I would say, honestly, I gave it a shot, but on the other hand, I have to put my hand up and say my heart wasn't in it.
Right.
So that's my admission, and I've said this consistently to Cripps and Jen. Yes, that is a fair call. I've got to own that one for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't really given it in the terms that you would say. Ask him to reveal himself. No, I've got to say no.
Right. Okay. And for me, thank you for answering honestly, Glenn. And I would always expect you to, because you've been nothing but honest with us right from the get-go, with me in particular, because you and I were talking a good bit before we even started the show. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the panel if that had not been the case. I believe you to be an honest person. Whether I agree with everything you say or not is obviously I don't. And neither do you agree with everything I say. But we can disagree on certain topics and still be very close, in my opinion. And that bears itself out. So disagreement, and this is something I feel strongly about. I'm not trying to change the subject, but I believe that people can disagree on certain things and still get along. And my hopes in starting TSL in the first place was to hear true stories from people, and regardless of what their beliefs were. And that's why I said from the beginning I didn't want it to be a quote-unquote Bible show. I felt like there were plenty of those out there. I wanted to bring people to the table to have open conversations. But it seems like on Glenn's end, and I'm not speaking for you, Glenn, feel free to jump in here, but I feel like there may be on your end feeling like some are disingenuous in some way, or maybe they think they're answering honestly, but they're not getting to the bottom line. So this question for you, it brings it to the bottom line, is you've admitted to me personally and just now, when Jen and I bring this up to you, it's simple. All you have to do is, if you don't believe in God, ask him to reveal himself to you and see what happens. If you don't do that, then you're never going to know for sure whether he's real or not. So you're choosing to not do that, and that's your right. We all have free will, We all have the ability to either seek or not seek, to open the door of our heart to him or not. And you haven't done that. And that's fine. That's your choice. But I really appreciate you being honest about it and raising your hand and copping to it, because that is the bottom line. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I have a question for Glenn. Glenn, you said that your heart wasn't in it. Can you expound on that? Was it just because you had looked at Christianity and just thought this isn't for me, or was there something specific that you were like avoiding, or can you expound on that by you saying that your heart wasn't in it?
Good question.
Okay, fair question too. Okay, I think, well, it's really like a multi-part answer to that question. Well, first of all, I think the declaration I made further, it's an imperative that I have no God. That's a later thing.
Uh-huh.
That's something that has sort of evolved from a thinking perspective in a grown-up place. From a child and adolescent place, it would be the behaviour. Let's take one step back. In terms of what you call a believer, I didn't even know this existed until after we reconnected, JC, after your mum died. I'd never heard of such a thing.
Right.
The only exposure I had ever had was to what you would call church.
Right.
And I would see people being bludgeoned, made fearful if you don't do this.
Yep.
I think the examples that people were setting was so such a turn off, and I thought, well, why would I believe anything that is going to be, people are going to behave like this, be derogatory, to be patronising, any of those things? They're not. They don't even stand for what they say. They just act in ways totally counter to and then they've got the Bible in one hand and being an absolute, whatever on the other.
Absolutely.
So from a child adolescent point of view, it was an incredibly poor example. I thought, well, if this is what this represents, who'd want to be part of that?
Right.
To me, that's totally logical. Why would I?
Sure.
And I think I took that, and after we got together, 2.5 years ago, you said some things, and I've got to put my hand. I say again, a lot of the stuff you said is perfectly sensible, but when I keep coming back to the bottom line, it's case. No matter which way I turn it around and look at it, it comes back to that it's just not for me. Simple as that. That's the bottom line. I can't do it because it's counter to what I have in my mind.
Yeah.
It's not deliberately pushing it away. It's just how it is. And I accept it.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you.
But as you can see, I'll say the last bit, but you can see the fact that in that acceptance, I don't in any shape or form try to take anybody else down who says different. I think that's really critical too.
Well,
that respect is there towards everybody here. So it's not, that's just how it is. Simple. That's the story.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead, Matthias.
Sure.
Let's just hypothetically say that the Bible is true and you knew it to be true. Would you then say that it is for you? Or would you still say, I don't want anything to do with it?
I think that's too general, the hypothetical. You narrow it down, I'll answer.
Because
I've got no hassle with the Bible. I've got no hassle with the Bible.
Right. Okay. Well, no. What you were just saying, because what you said was, that it boils down to it's just not for you. So that's what I was going off of. So, however general you meant it is where I mean it. So let's just say hypothetically, you do know the Bible, like it is proven scientifically for you. to where you know that it's true? Like, would you at that point be interested, or would you still say it's not for you?
Okay. Where I would delineate is where I would say the Bible may well be as you say, but it's got nothing to do with God. Because I don't believe in God to start with, but I'm not negative on the Bible. I'm open to anything really. I mean, I'm not going to just cut off my nose to spite my face. Put it that way. So I'll listen to what's presented to me. Sure.
Gotcha. So if it was presented to you as absolute fact, you wouldn't just reject it because you're stubborn. If you saw it as absolute truth, right? No, I got you. I didn't think so. Right. But my thing is when you said that you never actually did so heartfelt, like it was more generic. I would just say that, of course, like that's it. Well, that is it, but that's also what Satan, like, through all of the different religions, that's what Satan's getting everyone to do, a haphazard look into it.
Right.
And so the thing is if you don't want to know him, he doesn't force himself on anybody. So the desire, like how you truly wanted to know the things of your wife, like that's kind of the same. Like when you really want to know somebody, you get to know them. And so that's kind of the thing there. So as long as you say that you just wouldn't outright reject it, that's great, because I do know some people. See, I have to commend you, Glenn. You're one of few who reject the Bible and don't want to prove it wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you are actually, I have no problem with any unbeliever, but especially from your point of view, I definitely have no problem, because you're not out there trying to prove it as wrong. You just say it's a book of faith, and if somebody wants to believe it, they can.
Yeah.
Most unbelievers are like, want to ridicule, make you feel stupid, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And they want to prove the Bible wrong.
Yeah.
So, I have no issues myself. I just wish that, because I like you, I just wish God would accept it, but I know he doesn't. So.
Right. Okay. Any other questions about this particular topic?
I kind of have a question. I don't know if it's going to come out right, but I'll try.
Give it your best shot. Yeah.
So, Glenn, in the instance with the question before about you getting annoyed about, when I did not believe in God, I was this, and now I'm this. Because, the way I look at it, when you're trying to share your experience with God, the changes that you've seen in your own life is really the only thing that we have to share with people when it comes to sharing with them our experience.
Yeah.
So is there some other way that you would, and not that the world revolves around you, Glenn, I'm so sorry, but but is there some other way that you I guess maybe would appreciate more of believers sharing their own experience and how God has affected their lives, believing in God has affected their lives?
That is a great question. What better way? Because you're sharing, if I can piggyback on what Jen's saying to bring it out a little bit more, you're saying that Paula, the way that she's saying it, is annoying to you. I mean, and I appreciate you being honest and upfront about it, but you say that you don't want her to change what she says on your account, and then Paula is saying, well, you've shared with me that's annoying. Why would I continue to do that if I did that? And I'm paraphrasing here, Paula, but if I were to do that after you told me it annoyed you, then what would that make me? So there's a little inconsistency in this. You say that you don't, you're not against the Bible, you're not against other people's beliefs, but why does it bother you so much? And if it bothers you, if it annoys you when people talk like this, what is a better way? What Jen's asking is, how can we present our belief system, make it available so that you can see what changes God's made in our life as evidence for us, and not have it be annoying to you? If it's true, and I believe that you believe it, that other people's beliefs don't annoy you. I mean, it's okay for people to believe whatever they want. You've said that. But then why is this annoying?
Okay. Well, number one is that it's. Let me just I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Sure. Take your time.
That's that John Goodman did it to me.
Happens to me all the time.
Okay, that was it. Well, better leave that, Jen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Now I really lost it.
Sorry. Repose the question, Gripson. Sound like Gollum.
Okay. As I see it here, it's my responsibility to say to Paula or whoever, hey, I'm reacting to what you just said. It's not my responsibility to say to them, I want you to do it this way. All I am here is to bring it to the attention of the person, whoever it is, that this is how I'm feeling. It's up to them to consider what I say and make their own decision. Do they want to work to amend it or keep it as it is? So I feel I've fulfilled my part of what I'm here for. That's just to speak.
Right.
But it's like,
okay.
But
I would say that one of the reasons why it's the difference, it doesn't bother Glenn when we talk about when we used to believe or when we were unbelievers, because we were always God believers. Even when we were unbelievers, we all wanted to believe in God. We didn't grow up in that God can't be real mentality. None of us did, no matter when we got saved, except for Glenn and Paula. So because Paula actually has come out of exactly where Glenn is of where she was, like, because when Glenn talks about how he refers to God, that's exactly the type that Paula used to be at.
Right.
And none of us were ever there.
That's true. That's
you weren't, Matthias?
I was a Catholic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to agnostic, and I wanted God to be real, but I knew Catholicism was fake, and I thought Catholicism and Christianity were the same. See, same thing that Glenn was talking about. I didn't know there was a difference between religion and true Bible believers. Like
I thought they were buddies.
The same.
I thought they were buddies, Matthias. Catholicism and Christianity. I thought they were just like
in cahoots.
I thought they weren't the same.
Yeah, like two twin brothers that just didn't quite get along on all the details.
Right, just because somebody wanted to have a divorce. Other than that, we're all right.
That's right.
I thought, it's like when people told me a couple times when I was like in my late teens telling me Catholicism wasn't Christian, I was like, you're stupid. You don't even know. Like, I was the idiot. I didn't know. I thought Catholicism started Christianity.
Yeah.
But they hijacked it.
They did. Yeah.
So I get it, and it makes sense. So the only reason why I think it agitates him more with hers, because it gets a little under his skin, because she's talking from a position where she agreed with him before. And so that the difference there might be a little agitating compared to us, but we've at least always wanted God to be real, whether we were believers or not at the time.
Okay.
Glenn, could you confirm that or deny that? Is that where that's coming from, or?
Could you please just say that again?
Can't hear you.
Could you please get closer to your mic?
Sorry. Would you mind please put that in words of one syllable so that I can get the exact question? Thanks.
Matthias or
Okay.
Crips?
Yeah, Chris might need to be able to do that one. Can you summarize that better than I can, Chris?
Yeah. So Paula, what Matthias is saying is Paula came from the same place that you're at now, as far as your particular beliefs. She said she understands you because she believed like you believe now. With the only difference from what I understand from her testimony is that she was kind of angry, or she did say horrible things about believers where you probably would never do that. So if that's true, if you did come from if she came from a similar belief system as you have now, and she's referring to that in the past tense of this is the way I used to believe, and now I believe this. Is that where the annoyance comes from for you? And that there's some duality in the way that she used to be that matches how you feel now. I don't know if that helped at all, but that's...
No, didn't really help. All I can say is where I was coming from and thinking where other people may be coming who would listen to this without any prior knowledge of any of this.
Mhm.
They may think like I do, or they may not. That Paul is saying, I'm a better person than you because I now have a God.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. It's a superiority thing I'm hearing. Oh, you poor little minnow, you don't have a God and now I do, so I'm just too good.
Yeah, but see,
I'm not saying she says it, but I'm saying that's how it comes across.
Right. No, I hear you.
And maybe that may be me being reactive.
Yeah.
And in a place, but if that's the point, I need to say it so that you get a chance to explain. That's what the show's about.
Well, right. No, I agree with that 100%. That's absolutely right. You should definitely say it.
Yeah.
But you should also try to think of it from our perspective.
I would agree.
That, none of us, especially none of us think you don't have a God. We all believe and know that you do, and that he loves you very much.
Amen.
So we don't, none of us, whether we're right or wrong on that aspect, I think you could tell that we all believe that. So you're almost projecting if there's an opposite to that, it's you're reading into stuff that if you really look at what we've said before, if what we believe is true, we're not nanny boo boo, we have a God and not you. We're sitting here saying the God we know and love is your God, who loves you dearly and has sent us to talk to you. So not just you particularly, Glenn, but anybody.
Right.
So if you take your feelings and apply what you've learned from us over the past year or so, and not just with you in general, but just all unbelievers, I think you would see that that's not coming from any of us. But I'm not negating that you feel that way.
Right.
Not at all. Or not even negating that you should feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also saying you should take into account all the things that we've said before previously about, hey, we do think you have a God.
Mm-hmm.
And we are no better than you just because we believe.
That's right. We're not.
So, right. I get that's where you're feeling, and it's great that you feel that way. But if you put in our point of view, I think you'll start making some of those arguments for us in your own head.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't say that. They do think I have a God.
Mm-hmm.
They do want me to know him.
Yeah. Paula was going to make a comment. I think, Paul, do you still have something you wanted to say? I saw you.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that maybe it's just my personality. He doesn't.
No.
Well, I mean, I tend to rub people the wrong way sometimes. So.
Why do you say that, though? I mean,
Paula, that's got nothing to do. This is not personal at all. It could have been anyone who said this.
okay.
It's not you.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing personal against in any of this. It's just saying what's felt. That's all it is.
Okay. Are you able to take that in, Paula?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you've shared before that you seem to rub people the wrong way, and you being direct. Look, some people cannot handle other people being direct. That's just the bottom line. I think you're very cautious. I mean, you're not cautious about being direct, but you don't want to rub people the wrong way at all. I mean, whatever's happened in your past, where you've shared your belief with others and they seem to really, really react negatively, that's not what's happening here. He's mentioning one thing, one phrase that you say, and he's reacting to it, and just being honest, it's his issue. It's honestly his issue. It has nothing to do with you, your personality, or anything, in my opinion. It's just simply that there's something for him to look at, and that's why it's coming up. Otherwise, it wouldn't come up. And he's saying, and I'm glad he's like this. It's one of the things I appreciate about Glenn, is he doesn't like harbor animosity and stuff and just keep it in and pretend like everything's all right. If something's bothering him, he's going to bring it to the table, and I appreciate that. But that's him being direct too, and we can all react negatively to that, someone being direct. But I feel like we're all reacting fairly well to it. But it's not you personally, Paul. I just want to make that very, very clear. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Matthias, I thought that, although I don't agree with some of what you said, I think you did make some fair points, and I've listened to it, and I'm certainly not dismissive of what you said. So I appreciate you coming forward to say it. So yeah,
beautiful. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The next part is, it's been pointed out to me by a listener that change when coming to God is a spiritual change rather than a physical one, with there being no honest measure to gauge how such spiritual change may or may not affect or manifest in one's daily physical life. I think we all get this, right? So the spiritual change that happens to a believer, how do we gauge it? How do we measure it? What evidence is there for
first?
Oh, okay, you're ready to go. I don't need to repeat it. Go ahead.
Well, and Glenn, if he goes through this ever, he will understand completely.
Yeah, I know you will.
And it is the understanding. Scripture sounds just stupid when you're looking at it through the eyes of tradition, religion, or just humanity. I mean, it looks ridiculous. It really does. Like, why does somebody have to come and die? And how did that save me?
Right.
And why is a donkey tonking over there? Like, what? So, and then also, there's a time where people who are, contemplating it, they're still looking at it, or through religion, still looking at it and just not grasping it. But then, through seeking God, and when He is the one who provides that understanding is spiritual. To be able to comprehend it and apply it to yourself is nothing natural. It's supernatural.
Yeah.
And so in evidence, a gauge of such spiritual change would be to not stumble over what you read in the Word, but actually comprehend it, understand it, and possibly even apply it. But still, the comprehension and understanding of it is one of the first things that changes when you have an unbeliever to a believer.
Okay, so you're saying the understanding is the gauge. The understanding is how you measure it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll add that I agree with the statement that it's a spiritual change. The rather than a physical one, I would actually say that it starts out being a spiritual change, and then one of the manifestations of just a reaction from the spiritual change is physical ones. It's almost like a marker, if you will, or a symptom of spiritual change. And I think some people get caught up, and I think I was in this at one point, where you think, oh, well, I'm going to change what I'm doing on a physical level.
Yes.
It's going to make me look spiritual.
Changing your behavior.
And that means I'm saved. It's very interesting how that can get mixed up. But yeah, I like this. I like that Glenn agrees with that it's a spiritual change. Or not agrees, but he, what did he say? Where was it? He said something. Oh, this makes sense to me. It was the next sentence.
Okay.
So
well, thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Anyone else? What's the gauge? Matthias weighed in. Jen weighed in. Paula, what's the gauge?
Well, I really liked their answers a lot. And it reminded me when I was newly saved and I still had sins in my life. I still, had sort of a hair trigger temper like I always had. And I remember thinking, like I'm supposed to be a new creature. Why do I have all these bad habits still,
Right.
And then over time I realized it takes time. There's a lesson in everything.
Yeah.
And God takes his time showing you that. And I think that as you go on and you learn the lesson from it, it's like lifted off of you or something. I don't know. He almost like uses things to bring out other things.
Yeah.
So he lets them stay and then he works them out in his own time. And I used to think, or I was actually thinking this not too long ago, like if there was such an obvious, clear change from an unbeliever to a believer, like say someone just gets saved, one day,
right,
and which happens all the time, but if everything in their life changed right after that, their health got better, their marriage got stronger, their kids started behaving, their job, their finances were great. If they had all of these physical changes to show the world that God was true, everybody would be flocking to God for the blessings.
Right.
And there are blessings in knowing God. But they're different. Than what the world thinks of as blessings.
Or hopes it would be.
Yeah. What the world offers is temporal. Things that all do not last.
Yeah.
Security, security meaning, you have enough money in your account, you're fairly healthy, you have 2 cars in the garage, et cetera, et cetera. The world offers that sort of security, where God offers an eternal security, and the spiritual change is part of that. Great answers, guys. So I'll try to incorporate everyone's answer into my answer. I agree with Matthias that the understanding is a gauge. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. Before you didn't understand, now you understand. And once your eyes are opened and you do see the truth of Scripture, you do see the truth of God being real. Literally, Jesus is truth. When you get that, then you have your own gauge. It doesn't matter what other people think. The gauge is measured in you, in your understanding. So that was what Matthias mentioned, and I would agree with that. And then Jen was talking about many people out there try to change their behavior. And this is true in the world too with behavioralism, that people change their behavior first. I mean, there's a whole psychological branch where when someone comes presenting an issue, they just focus on the behavior. AA does that. Okay, so you're an alcoholic, you come into the rooms, you do the 12 steps, and you change the drinking. I'm going to stop drinking. So everything is based on that. And they use different tools that they have in their toolbox of ways that they have only found that's possible to change the behavior. And in that, they hope that in changing the behavior, you change some of the reasons why you started drinking in the first place. It's totally behavioral. And when people hear the gospel or they're involved in church or whatever, they definitely want to change their behavior. Then Paula mentioned some of the things as well. They want to change the things they used to do, the outward stuff, whatever that may be, when there's not necessarily for everyone a change internally, that spiritual change that Glenn mentioned. So it is a spiritual change rather than a physical one, but when the spiritual change happens, it comes from the inside out. And people do it backwards. Jen, you're absolutely right. People do it backwards. They try to change things on their own power, and it's not really a spiritual change.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately for you, I mean, you just were falling into religion, falling into the ways that were presented by so-called church and saying, oh, well, you need to not do this, you need to not listen to rock music, and you need not, I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And I think that's really dangerous because then you're basing your salvation on what you can or can't do.
That's
or
it.
what you can and can't stop yourself from doing. And Paula made a really good point because it's walking that out with God and he uses it. So if you're thinking that, well, I'm still struggling with this, so I must not be saved, holy crap.
Yeah.
Now, I know there are times where people aren't saved and they're still struggling with stuff, and that goes into a whole other thing. But I think it's very important to understand that, it's like I can look at myself and say, okay, my junior years or my baby years of being a Christian, a believer, God, I can look back now and see that God was using that stuff. But there were times where I was like, what the heck? Let this go away.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah, and the truth is, while we remain in these bodies, these flesh bodies, we're going to have struggles with things sometimes. But the more spiritual change that occurs, the easier it is to manage them. But the gauge is all those things. Great answers, guys. All right, Glenn, your turn if you want.
Real quick, I want to just add a point with kind of what Paula was saying. It reminded me of this verse in John 6 where, Jesus was doing miracles in front of everybody, healing. He was basically showing the kingdom of God, but he also broke apart some bread and some fish. And then after he fed the multitude, he went across to Capernaum, and they didn't know where he was, so they took ship and sailed. And it says sailed to go see him, and it says in verse 24, when the people therefore saw Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum seeking for Jesus. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when comest thou hither? And here's the main part right here. Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me, not because ye saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. So the blessings that people can try to grab a hold of, just because they ate and were filled of those loaves and fishes back then, didn't really mean they really believed that Jesus brought them that food the way that he did. And so, just like Judas, he saw many miracles, but did he believe it? No. And so when we witness and testify of the miracles that God's done in our own personal lives, many times people won't believe it, but they'll hang around the Christians because Christians will be good to them, maybe even feed them sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, when Paula was talking, it reminded me about this verse They seek him not because they really want to know him, not because of the spiritual things that he can provide, but for the physical needs that get met sometimes just by him and others.
Okay. Glenn, anything you want to say about this question or this comment that you made? Or you want to comment on what anyone else said?
Not really. I just thought we got off topic, but there you go. But I didn't get from Matthias what relevance it was. But then again,
well, let's bear it out. So Matthias, you came up with the scripture verse. The question is about the spiritual change and the measure and the gauge. The spiritual change, not a physical one. So you brought the story to the table of the fish and are making the point that they were really they weren't pulled in by the miracles. They were pulled in because Jesus fed them. So how does that tie into Glenn's question here?
I was actually referring to where Paulo was saying that some people will seek after Jesus for the earthly blessings and not the spiritual. So I was just saying that was biblical. So
okay.
I shouldn't have gone off into that rabbit trail, but I was just stating how what she was stating as a possibility actually comes from the Bible as well.
Okay. All right. So, Glenn, do you want to, if Matthias's addition at the end was kind of a rabbit trail for you, do you care to respond to what anyone else said to the particular question, the spiritual change?
I only do. Is it a general consensus that what the listener has said there is the page that you're on? That's the only thing I want to add. That's a question really for yourselves.
General.
Yeah, is there consensus that is a valid comment?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
ready to move on. No worries.
Okay. The next part says that makes sense to me. Too many assumptions, too many judgments about others who are not on the chosen path is my conclusion. So this is a statement rather than a question. Does anyone want to comment on Glenn's statement that there's too many assumptions, too many judgments about others who are not on the, quote, the chosen path? That's Glenn's conclusion. Any comments on that?
I don't know if it could be too many, as in too many, as in like too many
spelling, sorry, grammar, mistake.
Well, no, I wasn't going there. I was trying not to make it sound like I was going there, but I was saying I don't think there can be too many when that's all that there is. You can't know about anybody else. It really is assumptions. The only person that you can know if somebody's on the chosen path, which I would say is being saved, the only person you can know is yourself. And you can't do anything but assume, presume, discern, judge about other people by listening to their confession, hearing what they understand, and then the Spirit bearing witness. Like that. There's just a few things that you can gauge, but when it comes down to it, it really is assumption. The only person who knows where or if somebody is truly on the correct, going through the gate on the straight path, is themselves and God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can have too many, because it would just that's all it is. You can't know about everybody else.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people need to just stop making comments about other people, period.
Ooh, wow. Let's talk about that more. I think we talked about this on the show, the word assumption and what it does, or assuming.
And the broad brush and
the broad brush. And I've talked about how I've done that as well.
Yeah, I have too.
I've learned very much from a relationship with Glenn. And I've, as he says, I've raised my hand and said, I did this. I made assumptions and judgments about people based on, and now I will say that it was based on real-time interactions with God haters, people that, as Matthias was referring to, people that they're not satisfied with simply not believing the Bible. They want to take it away from everyone else and make it wrong and prove that it's wrong and make everyone seem foolish and ridiculous. And that's not what Glenn wants to do. He says that's not what he wants to do. So that's what I've encountered. I have never encountered, up until Glenn, I've never encountered a single person that just simply says they don't believe, and they don't try to take away my belief or try to make me feel or try to make it seem like I'm an idiot for believing in some kind of invisible dude in the sky that's going to send the sun back to the earth to take us all up and remove us from this world before destruction happens. So that's my story. That's what I've run into. So I had a reason why I used a broad brush to paint everyone with the same thing. But I have learned, if there's one person, and I'm referring to Glenn, if there's one person that doesn't try to take away my beliefs and try to make me think that I'm an idiot because I believe these things, then there's probably another one out there. So I cannot, if there's at least one, I can't paint it all with the same brush. It's foolishness. So I've learned, but getting back to what you said, Jen, there are too many judgments. There are too many assumptions. There are too many things said about other people who have no knowledge. I mean, we're having an ongoing conversation off air about comments made about me or not made about me, and assumptions made about me because of me being on other shows and things I've said on other shows, or not even what I've said, but just by referring to other shows that I'm on and what's said by other people on those shows, that somehow that means that I agree with them. That's wrong too, and it irritates me. It really does. If someone has a question for me, or rather than making an assumption, I want them to come and ask me myself and give me the opportunity to either say, yes, that's what I believe, or no, that's not what I believe. If they're drawing assumptions, that's on them. If they're drawing judgments, that's on them. If they're not giving me a chance to clear something up, there's nothing I can do about it. So I don't want to do that to other people. I think, Jen, your comment was a good one. We should do less judgment and more trying to have conversations, which Glenn also brings up later in the write-up. So anyone else want to comment on this? Too many assumptions, too many judgments about others who are not on the, quote, the chosen path. Jen? Oh, you already did.
Yeah.
Paul? Sorry, Jen.
That's all right. Like, wait a minute.
Thanks for your grace.
I liked what everybody said.
Okay. All right. Next one is tonight is like a mini testimony for me. Hey, I'm fair. I ask you questions. Feel free to reciprocate. Nothing off limits, whatever you want. I think we're doing that as we go. Okay, so the next question highlighted for me is, do you see it? Do you care? Do people matter, or are they mere pawns in the salvation game? It's a good question. Do you see it? Do you care? Do people matter, or are they mere pawns in the salvation game? Now, this paragraph above that was read, well, I'll just read it, but let's clear one thing up first. Somebody's got to call this out. Again, I continue to see pathetic behavior from so-called Christians. I've asked myself the question, what am I doing on TSL at all? This seems to be getting more hardline, in my humble opinion. I see people treating people, particularly on other shows and partly on TSL, in what I would call a disgraceful manner. Is this what Christians are about? I don't believe so. However, don't say the lordship people are the ones at fault and you, the free grace lobby, are not doing it too. You are all in it up to your necks, and I see agendas all over the place. People are hurting and being confused by all this division and righteousness. And then the question, do you see it? Do you care? Do people matter, or are they mere pawns in the salvation game? A little more context to the question. Anyone?
You know, I do think that there are people out there that do play the game, pawns, salvation game, whatever. There's always going to be people like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely not one to, like, I could say very easily, like, hey, stop caring so much about what people say.
Yeah. Oh my
But
goodness.
at the same time, I have some serious people pleasing issues, as you know, Mr. Cripps.
Well, you
And,
seem to be doing very well for me.
God is working on that in me.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard not to let that get to you. But, you know, I always go back to the term personal relationship with Christ, and it really is a one-on-one personal walk with God. And only you and God should be a part of that, and only you and God know the intricate details of your life and your thoughts and your heart. And God knows you more, you know, he knows you better than even you know yourself. It gets very muddy when especially negativity, when it comes from a negative point of view, starts seeping into that. I'm still figuring out the answer to that one, though. How to not let it hook you, and you know, God's a big part of that. And not putting, I guess, people's opinions higher than God's opinion of me, higher than my own knowledge of who I am and where I'm at with God and with myself. And but it is really hard. It is really, really hard not to let other people's opinions and what they say and do affect you.
Yeah.
But I do think people put way too much time and energy into it. It can really derail things. It can really screw you up and get your focus off God. I just are off the things that should matter more to you, you know? So that's what I'll say about that.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. As far as I'm concerned, I do see it. I do care. People do matter. And to me, no one's a pawn in any kind of game. I'm not playing any game. This is people's eternal soul. I care more now than I ever did, except for probably when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I wanted everyone to be in heaven, and I said as much. I mean,
You don't anymore.
Well, I have more understanding. I have more understanding that it's a deeper thing than just, you know, wishing everyone was there when they have to believe it, and many people choose not to believe it. They choose not to seek. They choose not to open the door. So I care very much. I don't want to. I don't want to give the impression that I'm uncaring. I definitely am aware that people are hurting and being confused by all the division.
Yeah.
And I would have added self-righteousness instead of the word righteousness, because righteousness is what we're going for, and we can't attain it without Christ in the first place. But the self-righteousness is very irritating to me. I've grown up around it my whole life. Members of my family are self-righteous. I've been self-righteous in my own life, and it's disgusting to me. Fortunately, God's working on that and continues to work on that in me. And I have no desire to portray that. And if I have portrayed that, I wish that people would have the same concern and care for me to be willing to bring it to my attention. If people aren't willing to bring it to my attention and they just talk to other people about it, then that's what it remains. It remains you guys talking about it and not bringing it to the source. And so I'm above that, or no, that's not the right word. I'm innocent. I'm innocent because it's not being brought to my attention. I want to help everyone that's willing to be helped, but the truth is, you can't save someone that doesn't want to be saved. You can't rescue someone that's not willing to participate in their own rescue. And by that, I mean, when people come in the chat and they say all these things, some of them, maybe they really want to be helped. And you see really quickly who those people are. Joseph's not here, but I'll use Joseph for an example. I'm sure he'll listen to this after the fact. Joseph is an example of someone who wants to grow and change, who wants to be a better person. And those kind of people, the people that are willing to look at themselves honestly and willing to hold their hand up and say, hey, I look at my own life and I was messed up in the past and I did this and did that. And I know that I can't do better on my own. And I believe in God and God's helping me do this and that. I want to learn. I want to have closer relationships with people. He puts himself in a position to do that. Well, that kind of person, I will help them, reach out to them, be there for them anytime, day or night. I will be available to that person. What I'm not willing to do is have someone say, they give lip service or chat service. They say in the chat, oh yeah, I'm hurting, I want help. And you reach out to them and try to help them. And you find out very quickly that it's all just a game. It's all just, they don't really want help. They don't really want to change. They just want to find a way to make other people feel bad about their situation. And that's as far as it goes. And I can spot it a mile away because I've been around it for a long time. Other people have more trouble spotting it. So they see a question in the chat, or they see a comment made in the chat, and they assume that each person is being intellectually honest with the comments that are being made. And I'm sorry, I don't fall for that. I would I think I've made my point. If a person wants, if they're hurting and they're confused by all the division and everything that being said, all they have to do is come forward and let's have a conversation about it. But if they don't, there's nothing that can be done. But no one's a mere pawn, and salvation is not a game. It's a very serious thing. No one's pawns. I'm not trying to use anyone for any reason. I want people. I'm sorry.
I thought you were done. Sorry.
No, I'm just going to, one more thing. I want people to have conversations with me. I want to talk. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this show at all. I want to hear people's stories, and I want to have a conversation. I want everyone to come to the table, regardless of what your beliefs are. And if we don't agree, fine, we don't agree, but we can do it with integrity and respect. But people aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to put themselves out there. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. They just want to talk about you behind your back and attack you and say things about you without getting the information from the source. And there's not a whole lot I can do about that. Go ahead, Matthias.
Right. Well, the latter part of this paragraph. Do you see it? Do I care? I'm not sure I know what you mean, so we'll find out. And do I care? Of course I care. Do I see it? I see a lot of different things, but I'm wondering what you're talking about. And do people matter, or are they mere pawn in the salvation game? That right there goes to show me that somebody, I guess it would be Glenn on somebody, and makes sense. He certainly wouldn't necessarily listen to us outside of Sunday night. I mean, I guess he may occasionally, but one of the things that I preach, and I'm pretty sure everyone else does, is that it's not about us getting a check mark. We're not trying to get people to make a decision. We don't know if anybody will get saved or if they're saved.
Right.
There's no pawns or salvation game going on here.
Right.
We really don't know. It's just obedience to Scripture. And the only reason why we do things is because God loves them.
Mm-hmm.
People do matter. That's why we're doing this. Now, we're not trying to get people to believe us. All we want them to do is actually go to God and actually put their heart into it.
Uh-huh.
That's all we want. If they do that and don't come to God, by all means, that's between them and God. And we're not trying to convince people to believe what we do. We tell them what we believe, why we believe it, what convinced us. But if you listen to a lot of previous broadcasts outside of Sunday or on this channel, we tell people don't even listen to us.
Yep.
Don't take what I'm saying and think it means anything. Please just compare what we're saying to Scripture. And so, I mean, I hope people are getting saved halfway across the world or 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Off of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but is it like we've got this check mark system? I hate the check mark system.
Yeah, you've made that clear.
Right. So I think if you really understood previous broadcasts more, then that might not be there necessarily, at least for my aspect. Now, getting up to the first parts of it. Okay, so what are we calling out again? I don't get it. I continue to see pathetic behavior by so-called Christians.
I'd like some examples.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Like I don't know what you mean.
Fair point, Glenn. Let's fill this out, man. I mean, we're here to do this. Let's get it all out there. What are you seeing? What do you mean by pathetic? You use the term disgraceful manner on other shows and partly on TSL. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know anything that any of us on the panel have done disgracefully on TSL, even in part. So I also would like to hear what that's
I have an inclination.
Oh, I don't. So
I do. I do.
Okay.
But I want to hear where it's coming from. And I guess my inclination would be a good way to put people who in the know. Let's go for a truck drive. There you go.
Glenn?
Are you waiting for me? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm waiting for you. I asked.
What's a truck drive? Okay. You know what? This is probably this is heavy stuff because what's happening here is and Matthias, you are incorrect. I spent a lot of time listening and particularly in the chat in lots of other shows. So I recently, probably in the last week or two, I gave up because I couldn't take it anymore. But I had prior to that spent a lot of time trying to come to grips with what you and other people are saying and the way that people are in the chat are interacting, etc., etc. Well, you get all that. That's not just letting you know that. I just see that there's people seem to have a lot of hats on, and one of the hats that doesn't seem to come is humanity. I rightly or wrongly feel that there's just such a hard-nosed attitude and disrespect to people who don't necessarily fall in line or want to say something. And this is all explained later too, but since we're dealing with it right now, I just have the thought that I just find the attitude. It seems to me. Now, we'll use you as an example. I feel when you come to TSL, and rightly or wrongly, you come in with a talk and doctrine hat on, but you don't come in with a TSL hat on in the context of what TSL is trying to do. So I feel there's incompatibility, and we can talk about that later or whatever if you want, no problem. So in terms of actual examples, to be honest with you, I prefer not to do it in this forum in public because I don't want to name people or anything like that. I don't think it's fair. So,
well, it's not fair, honestly, Glenn. It's not fair to use the term in quotations "disgraceful manner," and I'm asking you what you're talking about.
Okay, well, let's use. Hang on. I wish I had it handy. Now, you Crips, I could lay one right on you, but unfortunately, I would like to, but it would take me 10 minutes to find it because I'm not well enough prepared, and I apologize.
He wasn't prepared for us to ask.
Well, there'll be a part
Give us examples.
No, seriously, I'm not being evasive. The questions are very valid.
No, I know.
I will get it to you, but it does relate to the person I refer to later, the lordship person, who sent me a quote from yourself about your attitude towards from a free grace versus lordship scenario, and I was pretty horrified when I read it.
Well,
because okay. Now look, I know this is difficult because you haven't got it in front of you, and I am sorry you haven't, and I take responsibility for not being able to put it out there. Look, it all comes down to the thought that I'm feeling that TSL is being compromised in its intent by people wearing different hats and having an agenda. And I said to you, Matthias, straight up, I don't feel when you come here, you really embrace TSL. You embrace talk and doctrine, and that makes me
right. Well, I gotta give you. I can understand where you're coming from, so I'm not negating that. But if you go and watch D13, long before talking doctrine was ever invented, when I got online, what you're talking about is my hat is me. That's talking doctrine might be a channel surrounded around how direct and how bold and how literal I believe. And I mean, come hang out with me for a week. We're not on air. You'll think that you'll think it's talking doctrine because I'm sitting here. Oh, well. And I mean, there's times where Paul even has to be like, look, we're not on air. We're just talking about doctrine. That's just me is what you're talking about. So I get it. But what you're talking about is me changing who I am in order to come here. I'm just being me. There's no hat that I'm wearing.
So you're not wearing. You're not wearing the hat when you come to talk and doctrine. To TSL, sorry, that says I'm here to get people saved. Is that correct or not correct?
Ooh, that's what I'm saying. There's not a time in my life.
You're wearing. You say you're wearing your own hat. Okay, please tell me what is that hat other than
that's what I'm saying. Like I do believe I have two hats, and I thought of it earlier when we read it. One, to glorify God. Two, to be part of helping others come to Him. Whether I'm on air on TSL-THE, any other channel that I've been on, Skylar Fiction. I mean, every time that I'm on air, it is about getting people saved. You are absolutely right. But if you meet me in a grocery store and you've never met me before, that's the exact same thing there too. So, like, that's what I'm saying. The hat is the hat I wear all the time. Come and just be some stranger. I don't know what you look like, and put it to the test. You know, like come to Milton, find me. You'll see that nothing's different whether I'm in person, on air, private, or public. I want people saved, period. So if I didn't come in here with that hat on, you would be saying, take off the hat that's you before you come in and hang out with me.
It's a fair point.
No, it's a fair point. I think I'll get back to what I said. I just don't feel that the Matthias hat that comes in has, for some people, and including myself, a degree of safety and humanity that I really believe is intrinsic within the TSL philosophy. And I believe that just me personally, that people are switching off because they don't hear humanity connection with what you say, and I'm reacting to it.
Right. Well, mine is very rigid. The Bible's true. It's literal. It's real. You take it or you leave it, kind of attitude. But that's how I am everywhere. So, I mean, it
That is
doesn't
true.
change. Doesn't change anytime.
And it's the same for Cripps. He said, well, if people have got something to say to him, they should come say it. And I totally agree with. But the question I ask is that the way things are going at TSL, giving out the what's the word I'm looking for? The not vibes, but that it's safe to do so in here. And I just
okay.
Go on. No, please.
Well, you don't have the information. I'm asking direct questions about the term disgraceful manner, and you don't have the information, which I understand. But I have no way to answer my critics if they're not coming to me and they're presenting the information.
No, I didn't say they're critics. I said that people have an opinion that because with your okay, go on. I'll
disgraceful manner. That's the word used.
Okay, I will bring. I give you an undertaking. I will dig out those examples for next week's show, and we'll lay it on the table. Happy to do so.
Okay, well, I'll add more to it. It's not just me. Darlene in the chat saying, "Who's saying these things, Glenn?" Question mark. She wants to know who's been talking this way. So
well, I don't think it matters. I don't think. Don't. You don't have to lay out, Andre.
No.
The point is that there's a few things in here that I do think some of the disgraceful manner could be that, hey, look, we can agree to disagree, but we're talking about totally different gospels here. We need to make that clear. That may be a disgraceful manner from somebody who doesn't understand what biblical love is.
Right, I get that.
And that's fair comment. As I said to you, I'm just putting out here what is my opinion. That's, you take it or leave it.
No, and it's valid, and I get it, but I do think that it comes from, like, for one, I know that there's a huge attack on tons of people going to Renee, David, Luke, all sorts of people saying, look, by your association with talking doctrine, you're making yourself like this and that, and everyone's like, peace, see ya, because it's all spiritual attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that there is such an aggression, I mean, there's a channel called Talking Doctrine Exposed, for crying out loud, which is quite funny.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Right.
I've looked
for the course.
Yeah, I've looked at it.
So the point is that these kind of attacks are par for the course. When you actually start doing work for the Lord, it's gonna be attacked, and in every way that they can. I'm not talking about humanly, I'm talking about spiritually. This is a spiritual battle that believers are in. And I know you don't get that or believe it, but the fact that these devils are pushing those people that they are manipulating in many ways to try to bring down, it's funny because it's trivial, because if it's not of God, it will definitely subside. And even if it is, and God says time is up, it will subside. But no matter who or what is against it, if it is of God, it will remain and be used as he says. So I get it. But people saying, the association with and this and that, I mean, it's really just par for the course.
Matthias, look, I'm Cripps' number one defender. I go into bat for him 100% of the time.
And all I want to see on here is that people are respected, valued, and treated as people. And I just think some of that has gone down the slot. That's all. That's all. I don't care. Look, for me, it's totally irrelevant about spiritual attacks and everything. I just want to look at the core of TSL. It's not a Bible show. It's about inclusiveness, and everyone who comes here feels safe. It's as simple as that. The rest of it, as I said to you, is not relevant to me, and I feel that those principles that are espoused, the reason TSL is here, is being compromised in part. And I said I'll bring examples of it next week. Simple as that.
Well, alrighty. Yeah, for me, it's the idea. It's not just the comment in disgraceful manner. That is part of it. The other part is people not feeling safe. I don't believe that I've given anyone a reason not to feel safe. I've been welcoming to, especially when we do the open mic or open discussions and stuff. I'm very kind to people that come in, and I do the best I can. I'm not a perfect person, but when people are offended in some way, or if they're offended by my associations, if they don't bring it to me, this is the point I'm gonna make every time. If they don't bring it to me and discuss it with me, they're discussing it outside of my ability to do anything about it, because it's not being brought to my attention. That's the only thing that I have an issue with.
It just gets back to the point of people. Does anyone, and I can't answer the question, do people feel safe to bring it to you? That's the question.
Well, they
let's throw it out there. Put your email address up, and if anyone's got to say anything, let them contact you.
Yeah, I've done that from the very beginning, and many people have come. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any testimonies on TSL at all if people didn't feel safe bringing it and coming on air and talking about it, talking with us, talking with Jen and myself, for instance. I have gotten emails from people that have felt safe reaching out to me, and I have relationships with some of them.
Which is awesome. And JC, you in no way, or anybody needs to justify what you are. Well, we all accept that. It's not an issue. It's just that this is just my opinion, and I'm going to say it.
Well, you are. I absolutely do not agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. But if we're going to bring it all out there, then there needs to be, it's a put up or shut up situation.
Absolutely, and I agree.
Let's present the information. Yeah,
I have already apologised, and I feel quite remiss in not being prepared as I should have been. So
there's no problem about that. We're not going to finish this whole thing. We're going to have to come back to it anyway. So you'll have time to gather your information to make the point that you're trying to make. Because if I am putting off a vibe of not feeling safe, that goes against everything that I stand for. I believe that you feel safe talking to me, you, Glenn.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you know me pretty well.
And if anyone asks me that question, I will say 100%, like I just said. That is exactly. I'm not going to say one thing to somebody and say that you're opposite to you. I tell people straight up that you are this person, that I trust you. Simple as that. You don't need to say anything else.
Okay. And I think that anyone on the panel would feel safe talking to me. And if you don't have to say it on air. Please bring it to my attention. That's all I'm asking for. So having said that, if anyone listening to the sound of my voice right now, if you don't feel safe talking to me or coming on TSL and presenting your opinion, I am asking you to please reach out to me. The email you can reach me at is truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. I will answer everyone that sends me an email. I always have, and I always will. I've asked from the beginning for critiques about the show, even when we were on Blog Talk. And Glenn and I have talked about this many times. And I've asked for people to, if you have ways to improve the show, if you have things that you like or do not like about TSL or things that you would like to hear, please share them with me. But people don't. And that's not, no one's saying this, but that's not my fault that they don't do that. But if it's because they don't feel safe, I want to get to the root of the problem and find out what it is I'm saying.
Sorry. Okay, I'd like to open that up for all of the panel, not just yourself. If anyone out there doesn't feel safe with any of us, we need them to come forward. The question is, where do they send the information to?
I just gave the email address. What do you...
Okay, see this? Okay.
What? No, say it.
Well, if someone feels unsafe with a member of the panel, who's the best person? Is that, do you think you're saying say it to the person? Okay, well, we need to put up everybody's email address.
Well,
that's what I mean.
I just did. I don't have any problem with that. Matthias, do you have any problem giving your email address?
My email address is out all the time. If somebody's
got
a problem with me, they should know my email address.
Yeah, I'm confused by that, honestly. The email address is I mean, we could set up a separate email address that all of us can have access to. Is that what's going to work here?
I've got no problem with that. I would like to give people the opportunity to come forward, and if they don't, well, they can shut up.
Well,
it's pretty straightforward.
It's like that way for me now, anyway. But if they don't want to send it to the True Story Live, which is the name of the channel, True Story Live, I don't know what else to do. If it's me that's the problem, they don't feel safe, send it to me. Or if they have an issue with someone else on the panel, there has to be a way. If they want to have their voice heard, there has to be a way for them to contact us.
There does, and I'm not sure, to be honest. Has anyone in the chat got a suggestion?
Yeah, well, Annette just said you should set up a Facebook group. We also do have a Facebook page where people can come and make comments. We do get a lot of views in there, and people sometimes do make comments in there on the True Story Live Facebook page. So that's another way you could do it. You could do it on there. And if you want to let me throw this in there too. If you want to make a comment, but you don't want us to use your name, we will respect your wishes on that. So you can make a comment and say, I don't want you to mention my name, and we will just put it as anonymous, and we will address it on air.
No, well, there is another way, is that I can organize to put up something on the internet with a link to it, and people can just leave their email address out, or it can be totally anonymous, and let them have their say. It might even be a few questions, basically. But then, I certainly respect anyone who just would like to speak but don't need to be identified. We want to hear anything anyone's got to say under any conditions you feel acceptable and agreeable.
Agreed. Anyone
so
else?
How about I'll organise that as soon as I can with my son. He's just busy at the minute, and I'll run it past you and Jen, JC, and when we agree on the content, I'll post it, and the link will be available to all comers.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. That sounds like a solution. We'll get that done, and then we'll have to finish this up. I definitely feel like it was, talking about these things, I've always wanted to, I always have a desire to speak honestly and get everyone's thoughts out, and that includes you, Glenn. I've always wanted you to speak more on the show. You could have done that the whole time, and I know that you're respectful and you don't want to cause problems. That's not what any of us are here for. But I'm glad that you slowly over time have been working up to this particular point where you're willing to put your opinions. You're calling them your opinions, which is true. They're your opinions. I don't agree with all of them. But in you presenting your opinions, we have an opportunity to get it all flushed out and to take what's useful and make TSL better and throw away what's not useful. And I feel like we're on the path to doing that.
Agree. And after all, we all here have a common objective, and that is to make the show open,
Mhm.
available, and respectful. And I see that. Yeah, I think it's necessary. And to anyone else, if you've got opinions you want to share, bring it up. Don't sit on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it's getting close to 11:30. We went a little past our normal stop time, and I know Jen, for one, is very, very tired. I'm a little tired myself, so we'll have to continue this next week. Glenn, I assume, I'm making an assumption here, that you don't have any issue doing a part 2 to this particular topic and finishing up next week.
Oh, hang on, where's my damn? No, none whatsoever.
Okay.
No, it's basically, it's no problem at all, and I will just attempt to drag out all that stuff, and without trying to be in everyone's face, we'll just pick some relevant examples, and we'll go with it.
Perfect. I love it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's say our good nights. And Glenn, go ahead and start with you. Just say good night to everyone and good night to the people in the chat. And then we'll move on down the line and we'll get everyone.
Good night. I appreciate everyone listening to my opinion. I know it's all about just putting it out there, trying to do what I feel in my heart is the right thing to do. I don't make any apologies for it, and I sincerely hope that TSL continues as it is and can be a better show to everyone. And I very much look forward to being here next week. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Glenn. Jen.
I'm just kidding. not that everybody's boring. I'm just really tired.
No,
Night, guys.
Bring her out,
Trips. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us as we discuss hard stuff.
Yeah, it's hard stuff.
But yeah, that's life, and it's good. It's good. Yeah. But I hope you guys have a good night. God bless. Praying for you guys. If y'all have any prayer requests, shoot them in the chat. And thank you, Glenn, for being open and honest and laying it out.
Yep.
Night, guys.
You, Paula, say goodnight to the peoples.
Good night, everybody. Good night, chat. It was good to be here. I look forward to next week.
Okay. Thanks, Paula. Matthias?
It was fun. And look forward to next week. So, I thought that this one, hopefully with next week, it'll be a little bit more clear on where, there's been so many different attacks lately.
Mm-hmm.
Just you hear different things and like radar, okay, which camp did that come from?
Right.
But when we get more directive, it'll be more clear on which one. So I look forward to hearing that. But other than that, I will say it was a pleasure.
Okay.
I will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Matthias. All right, that's it. That's it for us. Thank you to everyone in the chat who is still here with us, and thank you guys for coming back each and every week. We appreciate you so much. Good comments in the chat tonight, as usual. And I do care about everyone in the chat. I've said that so many times. It's not just lip service. If you ever have anything and you do feel safe reaching out to me and you just want to chat, even if you just want to have me hear what's going on in your life, I mean, you have to give me an opportunity to do that. You can't just say, well, I'm this or that. You have to give me the opportunity to do that. That's the thing that frustrates me so much about this sort of thing is how can I show that what I'm saying is true without backing it up if I don't know there's a problem to begin with? I don't think it's possible for me to do that if I'm not aware that you have an issue or a problem. I would like the chance to do that. So love you guys in the chat. Thank you again for being here. Another episode of True Story Live. And we'll be back again next Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, good night and God bless.